يا ذا النعماء والجود يا ذا المن والطول حرم شعبتي على النار بحق محمد وآله الأطهار. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن ابن علي المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردنا الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم تأخذهم وهم يخصمون. فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون، هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون، لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون. سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون. ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان هي ويهك القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون. لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون. أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين. وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم. الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون. وليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى هو الخلاق العليم. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني زعفا. فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الزعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلعلع كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل لو قال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وتمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها راية جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء، فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وتمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم ما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي ابن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بدعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اختملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: السلام، اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن هاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن آداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل سلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب، ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب، أتأذن لي أن أحبت إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله عز وجل: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بتحيتي والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم تحت، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة التي نجية، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي: رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وخز الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسئدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فاذوا وسئدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
صلاة على محمد وآل محمد. حال غم سنائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، زخم دل دکھائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، محفلیں جمائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، بام و درس جائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، جشن ہم منائیں گے، جشن ہم منائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، زخم ہے ابھی تازہ مکہ اور مدینے کے، شام و کوفہ کرب و بلا ہم بلا نہیں سکتے، عز کی فتح دم غیر سے نہیں پہنچے، کتنے دکھ اٹھائے ہم کلمہ گویو ہم نے کلمہ گویوں سے ایک ایک چکائیں گے، ایک ایک چکائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، شک ہے جن کو اللہ کے عدل اور عدالت پر، منصب نبوت پر، سیدہ کی عصمت پر، مرتضیٰ ہی احمد سے مختصر نیابت پر، جن کو شک ہے بارہ پر، باروے کی غیبت پر، سب ہی مار کھائیں گے، سب ہی مار کھائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، نام پر صحابہ کے کام کافروں جیسے، نام پر صحابہ کے کام فاسقوں جیسے، نام پر صحابہ کے کام منکروں جیسے، نام پر صحابہ کے کام مشرکوں جیسے، سب ہی منہ چڑائیں گے، سب ہی منہ چڑائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، دعوے محبت جو صبح و شام کرتے ہیں، ان کے دشمنوں سے بھی راو رسم رکھتے ہیں، ان سے بھی نہیں دیتے، غیبتیں بھی کرتے ہیں، مومنوں سے بھی دل میں بغض و کینہ رکھتے ہیں، کس طرح نبھائیں گے، کس طرح तरह निभाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे, हाल गम सुनाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे, जख्म दिल दिखाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे, महफिलें जमाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे, बामुदर से जाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे, जश्न हम मनाएंगे, जश्न हम मनाएंगे जब इमाम आएंगे। सलात अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sheikh Bilal, respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight's recitation of Surah Yaseen was sponsored for the Ithar al-Thawab of the Marhumin displayed on the screen, Surah al-Mubarak al-Fatiha. Tomorrow's Thursday program will begin at 7:30 p.m. And will include the a'mal of Laylatul Ghaib. On Friday, Salatul Jummah will begin at 11:15 a.m. with Dua Nutbah. And at 8 p.m. we'll have our program commemorating the Shahada of Imam Ali al-Nakhi alayhi salam. And finally, Madrasa will resume on Sunday, January 5th at 10:45 a.m. Lastly, let us please recite 5 times the ayah of Amma Yujib for all those who are struggling here and around the world. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu al-muttarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-muttarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ اللهم صل. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد.
رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat is congratulations to the master of our time, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أسعد الله أيامنا وأيامكم وكل آمن وأنتم بخير. May Allah make these days blessed for us and for you upon the celebration of the Ahlul Bayt, and may Allah make this and the year that comes one of khair for all of us. 3 points to mention tonight. The first beginning with the ahmiyat of this month, the second on the birth of our Imam, and the third on the title of our Imam. First and foremost, with regards to this month, the month of Rajab is described by our Prophet as the month of Allah, and the month of Sha'ban as the Prophet's month, and the month of Ramadan as the month of the Muslimin. As such, this begins a 3-month period of raised spirituality and of spiritual growth, and there is a progression across these 3 months that is important to pay attention to. That there are certain amal tied to each of these months. In the month of Rajab, for example, some of the important dates that come include the Bi'tha, the enunciation of the message of Islam, the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the birth of Imam Al-Baqer, the shahadat of some of the Ahlul Bayt as well too is narrated in this month. But the significance of this month and its tie to Allah is what our Prophet recommends is the most recommended thing to do in this month. There is one action that precedes everything else that is associated with this month, and that is seeking istighfar from Allah in this month. That our Prophet indicated, if there's one thing you do in the month of Rajab, it's seek the maghfirah, the forgiveness for your sins from Allah, and seek forgiveness for everything. And that seeking forgiveness in this month, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, astaghfirullah wa as'aluhu at-tawbah, all of these variations of dhikr that are associated especially with this month are associated with the turning back to Allah and seeking His forgiveness. From amongst the calendar of Islam, there are 4 months that are known as Shahrul Haram, the months where fighting and sedition and conflict was forbidden even amongst the Arab before the advent of Islam. 3 of those months are Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah, that are 3 attached. They're one after another. But the one that was separate from these 3 was this month of Rajab. This is a speciality that even the Shahr of Ramadan didn't possess. That this was one of the months where fighting is forbidden, causing of sedition, disagreements, and it's known as one of the forbidden months where fighting is forbidden upon the Muslimin. And even before the Muslimin, the Arab in their period of Jahiliyyah used to honor this month. Its significance is very important. So which is why it starts with, and the beauty of it is if you take a look at, there's a very good progression. From the one aspect, this is the month to seek istighfar. The month of Sha'ban, our Prophet would indicate, which is his month, he says, this is the month where your best of your amal is to recite salawat on Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And the month of Ramadan, our Prophet would describe is that you have come to the sufra or the table of Allah and take from it whatever you desire. If we were to look at it as a spiritual progression, we would say that the progression is you cleanse yourself, you prepare for the acceptance of your dua, and then you ask for your dua to be accepted. Allah has prepared an entire regimen for us that begins in this month, and it begins with the sincerity of turning back to Allah and remembering Him and building our attachment with Him, then with our Ahlul Bayt, and then beseeching Allah through this path of self-purification. Which is why one of the other recommended actions for this month is to fast in this month. The description says that one who fasts in this month one day, Allah will separate him from the fire of hell by the distance of 1 year. So imagine a person who, seeking Allah's forgiveness, was to fast in this month, and every year fast in this month, even if it's 1 day every year. How many years in their life, and what would the distance from the fire of Allah and the punishment of Allah would they be separated from? The association of the verse that we began our discussion with today comes from Surah Al-Zumar, verse number 53, where Allah gives a description as He's describing to the polytheists of the time who have committed great sins to come back to the path of Allah. He says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. Say, O those of you servants or creations of Allah that have transgressed against yourself and commit sins against yourself. لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Allah can and will forgive all of your sins if you ask Him. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. Certainly Allah is the forgiving and the merciful. The significance of this verse and mentioning it in the month of Rajab is exactly that there is nothing that is outside the mercy of Allah. It is a question of turning to Him. And Allah has dictated a very special time in this month of turning back to Him and seeking His assistance and His forgiveness. Which is why in this month, turning back towards Allah, focusing upon Him, looking for Him, finding that process of going to Him is very simple. It's paying attention to this month, it's paying attention to the blessings of this month, and moving in the direction that Allah desires from us. So, most importantly in this month, don't be careless about it. Start the process of a spiritual progression and growth. Start the process of making a change and asking for the maghfirat of Allah, such that by the time we get to Ramadan and the du'as that we make in Ramadan, when we're fasting, when we're hungry, those du'a have athar, they have an impact and they have a resonance in our spirit. Second of our points, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. From the barakat of this month is that we begin the mention of this month by the mention of the wiladat of our fifth Imam. This Imam who is known as Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin, the one who splits open the knowledge of the Anbiya. There's a difference between the term Baqir or Baqara and Jarh. Both of these refer to something that is cut open. A Jarh is a wound, but it also used to cut something open. But there's a difference between both of these. The term Jarh refers to something that is simply cut or something that is simply opened up, like the skin when it's opened up as a wound. But Baqir in its essence is something that is split open and the source of it, the center of it, is pulled out and brought to its light and to surface. Which is why the title of our Imam was named Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin. Not only did he split open the knowledge of the Anbiya, but he exposed the depth and the beauty of that knowledge to humanity. This Imam's lifespan lasts for a period of 57 years, and he's born in the 57th year after Hijrah. One of the fun and interesting things, if you are interested in little facts, is that he is born in the year 57, he lives for 57 years. So it's one of the easy ways to remember what year was our fifth Imam born in. He was born in the year 57. And he lived for 57 years. The second interesting fact is that his father also lived for a period of 57 years. And the third interesting fact is his grandfather, Imam Hussain, also lived for a period of 57 years. Imam Baqer is the only one who possesses this fadilat and this uniqueness of attribute that his father and his grandfather had the same lifespan of 57 years that was their time on this earth. One of the unique things about our fifth Imam is his parentage. He is the only one who has a mother and a father who are from the children of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima. See, the father we know was Imam Hussain. And one of the things that we know is that every Imam from Imam Hussain ilal Khatim is from the children of Imam Hussain. And this is one of the superiorities of Imam Hussain, that all of the Aimma alayhimus salam are from his children. One of the elements that sometimes isn't paid attention to is that all of the Imams from Imam Baqir ilal Khatim, they also take patronage from Imam Hassan, because the mother of Imam Al-Baqer is Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan. This Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan is also known as Sharifa bint al-Hasan. If you go to Iraq today for ziyarat, one of the ziyarats that's become very common there is Sharifa bint al-Hasan. Sharifa bint al-Hasan refers to the mother of Imam Al-Baqer. However, the authenticity of that grave is somewhat unknown, that why would she be in Iraq at that point in time, or why her grave is there. However, her wasila is something that's important to take. Now what's interesting, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent for a second. You guys are okay? Everybody's alright? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad. What does it mean to be Alawi from Tarafain? What does it mean to be someone who takes their lineage from Imam Ali, from both the father and the mother? Today, we look at hasab and nasab, we look at the lineages, and we want, for example, that if we possess a particular lineage that we share in it. For example, today it's considered a superiority that if I am Sayyid, my spouse is from the Sayyids. And some even look back at the example of Imam Al-Baqer and point to this as one of the superiorities of the Imam himself, that he possessed this lineage from both sides, and it's something that we uniquely identify with. However, that wasn't the significance of this point. As a matter of fact, the idea of looking at lineage as a source of superiority is something that the Imam himself, Imam Baqer himself, stood against. Why? Because this was the time in history where there were some doubts about where the origination of authority of the Ahlul Bayt came from. So what would happen is that there were people who raised the call that they were the Imam on the basis that they were from the Banu Hashim. And they even contested the claim of the Imam himself. For example, there is one of the children of Muhammad Hanafiya who stood up and said, I am the Imam of the time, not Muhammad ibn Ali. And when questioned, how could you make such a claim? He says, listen, between me and Imam Ali is only one father. Between Imam Muhammad Baqir and Imam Ali is two fathers. Therefore, I am closer to Imam Ali, therefore I possess the position of Imam. In rebuttal to this, Imam Al-Baqer explains, he says that it's not the lineage that makes someone an Imam. You can't just claim to be an Imam if you have the correct lineage. Rather, Imamat is something that is divinely ordained by Allah and given, and it cannot be chosen by someone to possess or not to possess. This explanation that lineage was not something that gave superiority, if we apply it to the case of Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan, it's the same thing. The marriage of Imam Zainul Abidin to the daughter of Imam Hassan was not on the basis of the fact that they both shared the same lineage, but rather of the fact that the piety and the character of Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan was worthy of the position of being the mother of Imam Al-Baqer. When we look at, for example, even the attributes of all of the Ahlul Bayt, they didn't choose their spouses on the basis of lineage, which is why, we've mentioned before, from the 7th Imam until the 12th Imam, each of the Imams, their mothers were actually freed slaves. And the significance of them being freed slaves was the demonstration to show that it has less to do with the genealogy of where you come from and more to do with the character that you possess that determines where a marriage should take place and where Allah chooses to put the source of Imam. Which is why in the character, when we look at the character of Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan, we see that she was the one who was worthy of being the mother of Imam Al-Baqer, not the fact that her lineage gave her that position. This is why in her superiority, you'll see narrations about her, not even from Imam Al-Baqer, but from our 6th Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam as-Sadiq would explain what was the character of his grandmother, and he would say there was no one from amongst the children of Imam Hassan who possessed more piety than my grandmother Fatima bint al-Hasan. Imam Hassan famously had 15 children. Amongst all 15 of these children, Imam Sadiq, whose word is Sadiq, he is truthful. He says there was no one more pious amongst all of the 15 children of Imam Hassan than my grandmother Fatima bint al-Hasan. They would describe and demonstrate that even this attribute, that she was a Siddiqa. When we use the term Siddiqa or Siddiq, which means truthful, when it refers to an Imam or someone from the Ahlul Bayt and attached to the Ahlul Bayt, it means something different than when we refer to anybody else. When, for example, Abu Dhar is called the truthful one. That truthful one is the one who speaks the truth. But when it refers to the Ahlul Bayt and the family of the Ahlul Bayt, the title Siddiq and truthful means the one who has the ability to uncover and to know the reality of what Allah has commanded. That their truthfulness is different than the truthfulness of a normal person. When Imam Sadiq is describing his grandmother as being the truthful one, he's not simply saying that she never lied. She's saying that she was one who possessed that knowledge from Allah, that knew of the reality of the ahkam, the reality of the commands of Allah, and what Allah desired from humanity. And that she was one of the sources of knowledge that humanity could turn back to learn about what Allah desired. He goes further and he says this reality in her was such that at one point in time when my grandmother was praying, the wall in front of her began to fall upon her. She turned to the wall and said, by Allah's command, I tell you to stop. Allah has not permitted you to fall. And he says that the wall stopped in its place. This is known as something that mutashabiha li wilaya takwiniya. This is something that is like wilaya takwiniya. Wilaya takwiniya is one of the aspects of the authority that an imam possesses. Wilayat tashri'iyya refers to the authority the imam has to explain the sharia and the law of Allah on this earth. Wilayat takwiniyya refers to the authority that an imam possesses over everything that exists, has to submit to the authority of the imam. The same way we talk about if we saw our imam, he has the right to command us freely with what he would want. The same way the imam has the right to command everything that Allah has created. And they describe and say that Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan had something that was like this wilaya takwiniyya. And one of the ways that we understand how is it that a normal person could turn to a wall and tell the wall to stop and the wall would stop. And that comes back to the aspect of her being a siddiqa, the truthful, the one who had that knowledge of possession, knowledge in her possession of what Allah truly relies and wants from anything that exists on this earth. The further that we strengthen our knowledge of Allah, His Ahlul Bayt, and the knowledge of what Allah has created and increase our spirituality, the better our understanding of what exists and the more that whatever exists submits to our understanding. This concept of having this ability is not foreign, it's not impossible. Rather, we take a look and we see, one of the examples that we've cited before, we go back to it and we look and we see, when Imam Ali makes a statement and he says, someone asks him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, how do you know a mu'min? And Imam Ali makes a statement, he says, a mu'min is one who if he asks this wall to turn to gold, it would turn to gold. How? The mu'min is the one who has that level of understanding and iman of the authority of Allah and how to approach Allah, and who the authority of Allah is on this earth, and through that authority of Allah on this earth, turns back to Allah. Such that whatever comes into existence on this earth acknowledges that superiority and submits to the superiority of the one who knows Allah better than himself. That same concept is what's applied to the mother of Imam Al-Baqer. The mother of Imam Al-Baqer possessed that level of knowledge that whatever existed in reality submitted to her authority. These are the attributes that make her the mother of our fifth Imam, not the fact that she was Hashimi, not the fact that she was min the Alawiyya or Fatimiyya, those who are the children of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima. Let's apply the lesson today. The lesson from this story is that the most important element we look for in a spouse is that they have what is called kuf. Kuf refers to that spiritual equity with us. That I marry into a house or a family that is my equal in spirituality to help me further my growth in the path of Allah. That is what the Ahlul Bayt would look for when looking for spouses, and that's the attribute we need to look for. It is good to look within family, it is good to look within culture, these are good things. But they're good things when they promote that same concept of spirituality and the attributes that we're looking for are similarly aligned, so that we find someone who is our equal. This is why our Prophet would explain, لَوْ لَا عَلِي مَا كَانَ لِلْفَاتِمَةِ قُفْ مِنَ الْآدَمِ إِلَى الْخَاتِمِ. That it had it not been for Ali ibn Abi Talib, there was no spiritual equivalent of Fatima from Adam until the last man in creation. No one had the spiritual equivalency. This is why we even take a look and we see when Rasulullah asks Imam Ali, كَيْفَ وَجَدْتَ الْفَاتِمَةِ? How did you find Fatima as a wife? Imam Ali replies, he says, I found no one to be a better partner in worshipping Allah than Fatima. This description, these attributes are giving an explanation that when we want to look at the sharaf and the fadila of Bibi Fatima bint al-Hasan as being the mother of Imam Al-Baqer, it is not to say that the only honor that Imam Al-Baqer possesses that both of his parents were from Imam Ali's children or from the children of Bibi Fatima, but rather his true honor is this great status that this lady possessed in terms of her spirituality and faith. Which is why her character, and knowing her character, and knowing why she is such a great wasila, and knowing why there is significance in this marriage, becomes important to us, lest that people misquote this fadila as saying that, oh no, because we are from the children of Imam Ali, we will only marry into the children of Imam Ali. That's not the attribute. The same way for any of us who see any spirituality in our family, in our culture, in our clan, that spirituality is good. That's the reason, the spirituality is the reason that we marry into family and clan and culture. Not that, oh, we want to maintain the purity of this culture. The second of these points, the final of these points, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Why was the fifth Imam given this title? There are some very interesting narrations about this, and the discussion around this takes a very deep look at what the history of Islam was at this point in time, as well as even the statements of our fourth Imam. There's a narration that comes to from our fourth Imam that says that when one of the companions asked him, لِمَاذَا سَمَّيْتَهُ Baqer? Why did you name him Baqer? They describe and say that Imam Zayn al-Abidin smiled. And the reason that it's significant is that this is after the events of Karbala, and that Imam had not been seen smiling until this point in time when he gave the fada'il and the superiority of his son, Imam Muhammad Al-Baqer. In that he says that this son of mine is the one who will split open knowledge to its sources the way his grandfather Rasulullah would split open the knowledge and educate the people about the religion of Islam. And saying this, Imam Zayn al-Abidin goes into sujood and thanks Allah for this blessing. From the interesting attributes of Imam Al-Baqer is that one, that Imam Zayn al-Abidin did treat him differently than the rest of his sons. To where the extent his other sons would complain and say that, why do you treat him better than us? And the Imam would explain that this is the authority over you. Another aspect of him is to say that Imam Muhammad Baqer's imamat is something that was confirmed by our Prophet. That our Prophet is the one who confirms his imamat by telling Jabir, who was a companion of Rasulullah, that, oh Jabir, you will not leave this earth until you meet one who has my name and will split open knowledge to its source. And he describes and he says, his smell will be my smell, his footsteps will be my footsteps. So which is why Jabir, as an old man, when he was thinking that he should have died after the event of Karbala, after everything, would sit in Masjid al-Nabawi and call out for, oh Baqer, I'm looking for you. And eventually at one point in time when he hears the footsteps and he says, I hear the footsteps of Rasulullah, I smell the scent of Rasulullah, he meets Imam Muhammad Baqer as a young man, as a child, and he greets him and he sends the salam of Rasulullah to Imam Al-Baqer. The significance of this story was to say that if we were to question what is the silsila of imamat and who is the authority after Imam Zayn al-Abidin on this earth, it was already something that was well known because Rasulullah had established it. People in that time may have been confused by these processes of being unable to declare who is the Imam openly, but Rasulullah had laid this out, and one of the reasons that we know who our Imam is after Imam Zayn al-Abidin, and we don't split into different sects, is because of this narration that's directly from Rasulullah. And we accept this narration, why? Because Jabir is also the one who gives us Hadith-e-Kisa that we just recited. Jabir is the one who gives us the ziyarat of Imam Hussain. Jabir is the one who gives us the fada'il and the status of the Ahlul Bayt, meaning that he had an understanding and relationship with Ahlul Bayt that made him an authentic narrator, that when he says, I am waiting to meet Al-Baqer, who will be the Imam, who will be the one who has the name of Rasulullah and the attributes of Rasulullah, it gives us an authentication to this process. The Imamat of Imam Al-Baqer comes at a very interesting time, that those who had known and seen the example of Rasulullah had disappeared from this earth. The idea of who was the Prophet and what did the Prophet do, people had lost. They weren't there anymore. In approximately the year 93 is when he begins his imamat, and in that year 93, most of the companions, it's almost 100 years after the Holy Prophet, are gone. And so are many of the tabi'een. So there was much confusion about the religion of Islam and what did Islam actually want from people. And which is why our fifth Imam is the one who reintroduced the seerah of Rasulullah to society, reintroduced the teachings of our Prophet and what it was that Islam wanted to again explain to them that Islam wasn't a superficial religion that had no connection with reality, but how to implement Islam again into society. This is one of the explanations of how he was Baqir, that how he split open knowledge and taught people how to live according to the teachings of Islam. The other explanation that some of our ulama make points to a much deeper issue that was going on in society. And they point to and they say that this was coming towards the end of the time of the Banu Umayyah. And since the advent of the Banu Umayyah, those who call themselves the Shia were seen as different from Muslimin entirely. That the Shia considered themselves to be something unassociated with the rest of Islam, and the rest of Islam looked at the Shia as unassociated, not a part of Islam. And this was partially due to the effect and the impact of the Banu Umayyah, who had to separate the authority of Ahlul Bayt And on the other side, the insistence of the Shia following the authority of Ahlul Bayt. And that these two differences, they were seen as so far apart that these two didn't even look like the same religion anymore. And we take a look and we see one of the places in history is the Shahadat of Imam Hussain, where some historians come about and say that this was the advent of the Shia. It's not true. But the Shia had made themselves such a differentiated community from the rest of Muslimin. It was almost as if they were a completely different religion. And some people till today, they come and they make these false statements and they say, oh yeah, these others, they're not believers. That's not what Islam said. That's not what the Ahlul Bayt said. Rather, it was the role of our fifth Imam to re-engage and to reattach the example of the Shia as part of Islam and Muslimin, and to make sure that those who were the teachers of the Shia school of thought and the Imams of the Shia school of thought were respected and brought back the truth of religion to all of Islam. Which is why you take a look and you see, when we look at the history of Imam Al-Baqer and his teaching is entirely from the source of Rasulullah and reteaching the Sunnah of Rasulullah that all of the Muslimin would accept. To the extent where it's noted that Jabir al-Ju'fi, who was one of the companions of our fifth Imam, narrated 70,000 hadith about the Prophet from Imam Al-Baqer alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Zurara ibn A'yun, all of these companions that were close to Imam Al-Baqer all narrated the relevance and the truth of Rasulullah back to the Muslimin as a whole. To the extent where even Uyayna and some of the major scholars of the Sunni school of thought would be described as saying that we were as if we were children in front of our teacher when we would sit with Imam Al-Baqer. And Imam Al-Baqer reintroduced us to the sources of Islam. This entire process of teaching and being a fundamental of reintroducing the seerah of Rasulullah, the sayings of Rasulullah, the education of Rasulullah back into Islam was to reconnect these two elements and show the truth and validity of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt as being the teachers of Islam, not of a different religion. Because the Banu Umayyah had worked so hard to separate the Muslims from the Prophet and from the Ahlul Bayt that they were almost as if they were going down a completely different path. And it's the Imam who split open the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt and of the Holy Prophet to bring them back to the path of Islam. Today, if we have, for example, an ittihad, an agreement amongst the Muslimin on the seerah of the Prophet in many places, about learning about the sunnah of the Prophet, about respecting and honoring the sayings that the Ahlul Bayt possess about the Prophet, it is by the extent and the efforts of this fifth Imam of ours. To the extent where one of the hadith that we narrate is one of the Ahl Sunnah, who upon hearing the Shahadat of Imam Al-Baqer, comes to Imam Sadiq to pay respects, and he says, I am grieved at the loss of the one who would narrate to us a hadith from Rasulullah without any wasila between him and Rasulullah, and we would always accept it and believe it. Imam Baqir is born after, much after, the year 57, over 40 years after the Shahadat of Rasulullah. Yet whenever he would narrate a hadith from our Prophet, no one would question him. As a matter of fact, the system of Rajab and authenticating hadith was one of the sciences that Imam Al-Baqer initiated in society by telling them that if I tell you a hadith, then no, it goes back to Rasulullah and to Jibreel and to Allah from there. And this man, he comes to Imam Sadiq and he says, I am grieved at the loss of the one who would narrate from Rasulullah without having a wasila in the middle. It was the definition of this statement that proved the Imam had rejoined these factions that were being created in Islam and gave us the barakat of one ummah and one Islam, though we may differ in some degrees amongst each other. The completion of that hadith goes to the fact that Imam Sadiq lowers his head for a moment and then he raises it and he says and gives a narration of a hadith directly from Allah. And this man, when he leaves this majlis, he says to his friends, I have seen something great and strange today. And they said, what did you see? He says, I was grieved over the loss from the one who would narrate from Rasulullah directly. I met the one who narrates from Allah directly in his stead. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This month and this barakat of this month and the blessing that we begin this month by the mentioning of Imam Al-Baqer and the history and the dearth of knowledge that our Imam left us should be a motivation for us to look at and to learn the traditions of Ahlul Bayt, to invest in the process of learning and applying the sayings of Ahlul Bayt. They worked exceptionally hard to ensure that Islam persisted. And it was the seerah of Rasulullah that became and remained the example of Islam amongst all of humanity. So by the barakat of this month and by the barakat of this birth of this day, may Allah give us the tawfiq to learn from the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, by the right of Imam Al-Baqer, his fathers and his children, and by the wasila of the Quran, O Allah, we ask you that, O Allah, forgive our sins and cover our flaws in this month. Ya Allah, we gather here with hajat. By the right of our Imam, fulfill our hajat. Ya Allah, give us the tawfiq to go to the ziyarat of Imam Al-Baqer in Medina. O Allah, give us and our children the tawfiq to stay on the upright path of Islam. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahibul Zaman. Make us and our children from the upright supporters of Sahibul Zaman. O Allah, those amongst our marhumeen, forgive their sins and cover their flaws. Ya Allah, we have gathered here with these hajat, fulfill our hajat. And those who are in difficulty and suffering around this world, give aman to the believers wherever they are. And entitle us to the ziyarat of Imam Hussain in this world, and the shifa of Imam Hussain in the hereafter. Remembering all of our marhumeen, 1 Surah Fatiha, 3 times Surah Ikhlas. May Allah forgive them and us in this blessed month. With your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی، زندگی بندگی روشنی آ گئی، روشنی آ گئی آ گئی آ گئی. موت ان کے محبوں کو آتی نہیں، آ بھی جائے تو پھر بچ کے جاتی نہیں. موت ان کے محبوں کو آتی نہیں، آ بھی جائے تو پھر بچ کے جاتی نہیں. موت کا کیا خطر، موت سے کیا حذر، اس سے بچنا بھی کیا آ گئی آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. تیری مسند پہ غیروں کو بٹھلا دیا، نائب مصطفیٰ مظہر کبریا. تیری مسند پہ غیروں کو بٹھلا دیا، نائب مصطفیٰ مظہر کبریا. تو وسیع و ولی و علی ہی رہا، منزلت میں تیری کیا کمی آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. مسلک عشق میں مانگنا عیب ہے، میں بھی خاموش ہوں وہ بھی خاموش ہے. مسلک عشق میں مانگنا عیب ہے، میں بھی خاموش ہوں وہ بھی خاموش ہے. ان کو سب ہے خبر اس لیے چپ ہوں میں، کیا ہوا آنکھ میں گر نمی آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. سورہ آل عمران بھی ہے گواہ، مثل کو سر ہوئی آل ان کو عطا. سورہ آل عمران بھی ہے گواہ، مثل کو سے ہوئی آل ان کو عطا. وہ جو کہتے تھے اب تر نبی کو میرے، ان کی قسمت میں ہی اب تری آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. شاعری کی شرائط بتا بھی گئے، اور میں عشق ہے در پہ لا بھی گئے. شاعری کی شرائط بتا بھی گئے، اور میں عشق ہے در پہ لا بھی گئے. سبت جعفر میں قربان میں عشق کے، ابن جعفر کو بھی شاعری آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. زندگی بندگی روشنی آ گئی، روشنی آ گئی آ گئی آ گئی. جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی. محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
الہی ببیمار داشتے بلا، جو بیمار ہو جلد پامیں شفا. الہی برائے امام زمان، ہمیں حول میں شاس دے تو اما. قیامت کو میں رویالی، اٹھے قبر سے کہتے ہم یا علی. اے پانچ ونو مل جا داتان احمد وعلی زہرا و حسان. شبیر سے لے تا امام زمان، شبیر سے لے تا امام زمان. ایک ایک پہ صدا صلوات پرو، صلوات صلوات کے اس پہ نثار گوہر، جو نبی بلند صفات ہوئے. صلوات صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان، فرماؤ ظہور یا امام زمان. صلوات. السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکہ امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیکہ فاطمہ الزہراء سیدۃ النساء العالمین، السلام علی الحسن المجتبی، السلام علی الحسین وعلی آل ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین جميعا رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکہ یا غریب الغرباء سلطان ابو الحسن علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا، کن شفیعنا شفیع والدینا فی یوم الجزاء ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکہ صاحب العصر والزمان، الامان الامان الامان. السلام علیکہ شریک القرآن، السلام علیکہ کعبۃ الایمان، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توءا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.